Since the moment we are born, we are taught to compete in sports, in school, and even in finding a partner. But there is one competition that controls almost everything in life: the race for money. Some get more of it, and some will lose it. And to win this race, people take huge risks. We build businesses and sacrifice everything. But here's the truth most people never question. In the race of building business and making money, competition is for losers. This video is inspired by Peter Thiel's amazing book, 0 to 1. Let's dive into the secret part of the elite business worlds. Chapter 1. The fundamental question. What does it mean to build something great? Let's start with something simple. A question that seems easy but changes everything once you really understand it. The question is, what important truth do very few people agree with you on? Think about it. A great answer to this question is the foundation of 0 to 1. Now, Peter Thiel, a venture capitalist, investor, and philosopher, spent his entire career studying how companies grow, and he discovered something radical, something most people get completely backwards. Here it is. There are two ways to build a business: horizontal progress and vertical progress. Horizontal progress, or extensive progress, means copying things that work, going from 1 to n. You take something that already exists and you make it better, faster, cheaper. You optimize, you scale what's known. Here's the simplest way to understand it. If you take one typewriter and build 100 typewriters, you've made horizontal progress. You've copied and scaled. Vertical progress, or intensive progress, is completely different. It means doing new things, going from 0 to 1, creating something that didn't exist before. If you have a typewriter and you build a word processor, you've made vertical progress. You've done something nobody else has ever done. Now here's something most people never think about. How is our future actually being built? Most people assume the future will just happen. Progress is automatic. We'll wake up in 20 years and technology will be better. The world will be more advanced and life will be easier. But that's not how it works. The future doesn't build itself. The future is built by companies, by businesses, by people who decide to create something new. And here's the critical insight. The future is built by both horizontal and vertical companies, and we're making a huge mistake by relying too much on one and not enough on the other. Horizontal companies are necessary. They scale existing solutions. They make things cheaper. They reach more people. They're important for spreading progress. But here's the problem. Horizontal progress alone doesn't create the future. It just copies it. If all we do is build more of what already exists, we get stuck. We optimize the same old ideas. We compete harder and harder on the same things. And the world doesn't actually change. Vertical progress is what moves us forward. It's what creates genuinely new futures that we couldn't imagine before. Think about it. The world didn't become more connected because millions of companies figured out how to make better mail delivery. It became more connected because someone invented the internet. The world didn't become better at finding information because thousands of search companies optimized their algorithms. It became better because someone created a fundamentally different way to organize information. That's vertical progress. That's how the actual future gets built. And here's what's happening right now that should worry you. Most of the business world is trapped in horizontal progress. We're all competing to do what's already being done, just a little bit better. More restaurants, more apps, more copy-paste innovation. We've created a culture that celebrates small, incremental improvements. We call it lean, we call it iterating, we call it smart. But we're actually choosing not to build the future. We're choosing to optimize the past. Meanwhile, vertical progress, the stuff that actually changes everything, is rare. It's uncommon, and most people don't even recognize it when it's happening. Thiel says, the best paths are new and untried. Successful people find value in unexpected places, and they do this by thinking about business from first principles instead of following formulas. And here's something crucial that most people miss. Every moment in business happens only once. The next Bill Gates will not build an operating system. The next Larry Page or Sergey Brin won't make a search engine. And the next Mark Zuckerberg won't create a social network. Chapter 2. Why competition is a trap. The dirty truth about competition. Here's where Thiel gets controversial. He says, competition destroys profits, and therefore, competition is for losers. Now don't misunderstand. He's not saying you should lose. He's saying that competing with everyone else is a losing game from the start. Let me give you two real examples that changed how I think about business. Example 1. Airlines versus Google. The US airline companies serve millions of passengers every single year. They create hundreds of billions of dollars of value annually. You think they're incredibly profitable, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. In 2012, the average airfare was $178. But you know how much profit the airlines made per passenger trip? 37 cents. Less than $1. Now compare that to Google. Google creates less total value than the airlines. They brought in $50 billion in 2012 versus $160 billion for airlines. But here's the difference. Google kept 21% of those revenues as profit. That's more than 100 times the airline industry's profit margin. Google is worth 3 times more than every US airline combined. Why? Because the airlines compete with each other, but Google stands alone. This is the fundamental economic difference between two types of markets. Perfect competition is what economics textbooks call the ideal. In perfect competition, every firm is essentially the same. They all sell the same products. Nobody has power, so they must all sell at whatever price the market determines. And here's the killer part. Under perfect competition, in the long run, no company makes an economic profit. Zero. You work forever just to break even. But monopoly is completely different. By monopoly, we don't mean illegal bullying or government favorites. We mean a company that's so good at what it does that no other firm can offer a close substitute. Google is a perfect example. It hasn't actually competed in search since the early 2000s when it definitively distanced itself from Microsoft and Yahoo. It's been a monopoly ever since, and monopolies make insane profits. That's not a side effect. That's the whole point. Here's what most people don't understand. Both competitive companies and monopolies lie about their position. Competitive companies try to look like monopolies. They'll tell you they're in a special niche. They'll use fancy language to make their market seem smaller and more defensible than it actually is. Meanwhile, monopolies try to look competitive. Why? Because monopolies face scrutiny, regulation, public criticism. So they'll describe their market as huge and competitive just to avoid attention. Google will tell you, we compete with all media platforms, with all information technology, with everyone. But we know that's not true. They have a monopoly in search. So when you're looking at any company, including your own, you need to ask, are they lying about their market position? Now, the implication is clear. You do not want to be in perfect competition. You want to be a monopoly. And the way you become a monopoly is by thinking differently, by doing something new, by going from 0 to 1. Because in a truly competitive market, you're racing to the bottom. You work harder, cut prices lower, sacrifice more, and everyone else does the same thing. Everyone loses. But when you create something new, something only you can do, you have monopoly power. You can charge what your product is worth. You can make real profit. You can reinvest. You can build something bigger. That's the trap people fall into, thinking competition makes them strong. It doesn't. It makes them invisible. Chapter 3. Creating value versus capturing value. The secret nobody talks about. So you understand, monopolies are powerful. Competition is weak. But here's a question that almost nobody asks, and it's absolutely critical. What valuable company is nobody building? This question is harder than it looks, because here's the thing. A company could create massive value without becoming valuable itself. Let me explain. Creating value and capturing value are two completely different things. Creating value means you make the world better. You solve a problem. You make something people want. But capturing value means you actually get paid for it. You keep some of the money. Here's an example. A teacher creates enormous value. Students learn. They get better lives. They contribute to society. But teachers don't get paid much. Meanwhile, a tech entrepreneur might create less total value, but capture way more of it through a profitable business. The formula is, creating value is not enough. You must also capture some of the value you create. This is why the question, what valuable company is nobody building, is so important. There might be tons of valuable things to build, but you need to build something that people will actually pay for. Something where you can capture the value. This connects back to the monopoly idea. In a competitive market, you create value but can't capture it. The market determines prices. Consumers get all the benefit. You get nothing. But when you have a monopoly, when you're the only one doing something people want, you can capture significant value. You determine pricing. You reap the rewards of your innovation. So the real question for any founder is, what can I create that's both valuable and capturable? What problem can I solve where I'll actually benefit from solving it? This is where secrets come in, which we'll talk about in the next chapter. But the key insight here is, don't just chase value creation. Chase value that you can capture. Chapter 4. The Power of Secrets. What does everyone believe that's actually wrong? Now we get to the most powerful concept in the entire book. Secrets. Here's what Thiel discovered. The best companies are built on secrets that most people don't see. A secret is a truth about the world that isn't obvious. It's something valuable that's right in front of us, but almost nobody is acting on it. Think about Steve Jobs. He understood a secret. People would pay a huge premium for beautifully designed technology. That wasn't obvious in the 1990s. Everyone thought people just wanted cheap computers that worked. But Steve knew better. He saw that people wanted elegance, simplicity, beauty. That was his secret. Netflix had a similar secret. People wanted convenience more than they wanted unlimited selection. They were happy to wait 2 days for a movie if it meant they didn't have to go to Blockbuster. These secrets become monopolies. When you discover something true that almost nobody else has figured out, and you build a business on it, you create a monopoly. Why? Because you have special knowledge. You understand something about human nature or the market that your competitors haven't grasped yet. By the time they figure it out, you're already dominant. Now here's the problem. Thiel argues we've entered an age where people have stopped looking for secrets. We're taught that everything is knowable. Everything is on the internet. There are no more secrets. So instead of asking, what important truth do very few people agree with me on, we ask, what's the most efficient way to do what everyone else is doing? And that's a losing game. The founders who build 0 to 1 companies are the ones who ask the hard questions. What does everyone believe that's actually wrong? What's broken about the world that everyone just accepts? What do people actually want but aren't admitting? These secrets are everywhere, in markets, in human psychology, in technology, but they require thinking differently, thinking for yourself, not following the herd. And that's rare, which is why they're so valuable. Chapter 5. The 7 questions that define great companies. How to build a monopoly from 0 to 1. So you understand the philosophy. You know about secrets. You know about monopolies. But how do you actually build it? Thiel gives us 7 concrete questions to answer. And if you answer them right, you're building something that can become a monopoly. Question 1. Can you create breakthrough technology? Not incremental, breakthrough. Your product needs to be at least 10 times better than the existing alternative. Why 10 times? Because anything less, people won't switch. They'll stick with what they know. Apple didn't make a slightly better phone. They made a phone that was 10 times better than what existed. Question 2. Do you have the right team? This matters more than most people realize. A-level people attract A-level people. B-level people attract C-level people. You need founders who genuinely complement each other. People who are actually convinced of the mission, not just collecting a paycheck. Question 3. Can you distribute your product? Technology is only half the battle. You need to get it in front of people. This is where most startups fail. They build something great but have no distribution strategy. Sales isn't dirty. Distribution is the business. Thiel's core truth here. Sales matters just as much as product. Question 4. Is the timing right? This is invisible but critical. Timing isn't about luck. It's about recognizing when the world is actually ready for your idea. Social networks couldn't have worked in 1995. The internet wasn't mature enough. People didn't have broadband. Habits weren't formed. But in 2004, when Facebook launched, the moment was perfect. Everyone was online. Everyone understood the concept. The timing was right. Question 5. Do you have a defensible advantage? Why should people believe you will execute better than anyone else? Do you have special insight, special knowledge, a unique network? Something that's hard to copy. This is what we mean by a defensible monopoly. You have moats, patents, brand, network effects, or just first-mover advantage in a way that's hard to replicate. Question 6. Will you have a network effect? Network effects mean the product becomes more valuable as more people use it. Facebook is worthless if you're the only one on it, but with 1 billion users, it's everything. The best businesses create increasing value as they grow. That's sustainable monopoly power. Question 7. Can you maintain your monopoly long-term? Once you've created something special, can you defend it? Patents, brand, network effects, first-mover advantage. You need defensibility. Otherwise, competitors will copy you, and you're back to perfect competition. Here's the truth. If you answer all 7 of these questions well, you don't have a startup. You have the beginning of a true monopoly. Most companies answer maybe 2 of them. They have decent technology but no distribution. Or they have a team but no timing. Or they have distribution but no defensibility. Winners answer almost all of them. And here's one more thing that separates winners from everyone else. A bad plan is better than no plan. A plan shows you've thought about the future. Vagueness shows you haven't. Most startups fail because they're indefinitely optimistic. Something good might happen. Let's experiment and see. But winners are definitively optimistic. They have a clear vision of a specific future, and they execute to build it. This separates the people who change the world from the people who iterate in the margins. Chapter 6. The Money Multiplier. Why money matters exponentially. There's one final principle that Thiel emphasizes, and it's mathematical. He quotes a biblical principle that Einstein also understood. Money makes money. Or, as it's sometimes said, compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. It's exponential growth. Here's why this matters to you. If you build a 0 to 1 company, if you create a monopoly, you don't just make money once, you make money exponentially. $1 of profit in year 1 earns interest and becomes more in year 2. That earns more in year 3, and so on. The monopoly business compounds. It gets bigger and more powerful with each passing year. But a competitive business doesn't compound. You work hard, make a tiny profit, and next year you have to work just as hard to make the same tiny profit. This is the mathematical reality of the monopoly advantage. And here's what Thiel really wants you to understand. Building 0 to 1 isn't just about being successful. It's about building something that compounds, something that grows exponentially, something that lasts. It's the difference between a business that's exhausting and a business that's powerful. And that's available to anyone willing to think differently.